Hello.
Hello. Welcome to our cosmic journey. Today is the 14th of October, 2023, 4:08 p.m. here in lovely Berlin, Germany. Hello, Trey.
Hello, Jake.
Pleasure to see you again.
Yes, it's not, it's like you're not just in the next room.
You're not right over there? Oh, crazy.
Yeah, and we're gonna come back to the date and time a little bit later in this
Yeah,
discussion.
it's definitely impactful for reasons that we will describe in a little bit for
Yes.
posterity purposes. We had a lot going on in this cycle.
Boy, howdy.
Boy, howdy indeed. So this cycle was da 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 chart rehab. Also put that stuff down there. There we go. So as we always do, let's start with a check-in question. And instead of us writing it down, what we've decided to do this time is for it to be a little bit of a surprise because we like surprises. So it's Trey's check-in today, Mr. Henry.
Who doesn't like a surprise?
Everyone should.
Everyone loves surprises. Speaking of surprises, uh, there's lots of video games that have a fishing mechanic. Sort of like Minecraft, for example, where it's not the core thing, but there's like you can fish in the game, and you can get fish that way, but also you can get rare and magical items.
Mm.
If real life were like a video game and you went
Oh,
fishing, what rare and magical item would you hope to get?
good question. I mean, the first one that comes to my mind is the gift of, I don't know if this is going to sound very like,
It's got to be a
uh,
thing. It's got to be a thing that comes up on the line
oh,
attached
okay,
to the
okay.
hook.
So when you
Reeled
take
up
it
the
all the
line.
way up, when you reel it all the way up, what I caught was a a statue of a person that has a glowing soul in it, and it's the statue of empathy. There's a better word for this other than statue, but it's statue of empathy. And the way it works is this: when you grip the statue and you touch another person, you, for only a flash, get to look into their lived experience, and you get a flash of what they are currently thinking, feeling, doing, whatever. And you embody them for a second, and you get to understand something about somebody else's lived experience. I think that would be a lovely magical item. There's a T word for this, a magical talisman to
Yeah,
fish out of a pond. So the statue of empathy
the statue of
would be my
empathy. Yeah,
my
that's a really good
magical
one.
item. Thank you.
Yeah, I really like that. Let's see. For me, I think um, I would reel up a uh, the eye from um, what was it? It was from oh crap, what was the movie? It's an eye that allows you to see into the past or the future. And so like it's like a little sort of looking glass kind of thing, and then you can like look through it. And when you look through it, you can see the past or the future, but you can see the past or the future through somebody else's eyes. So,
Ooh.
so like some experience that somebody's had, or some like like thing that they think is going to be like coming down the pipe. I think it's somewhat similar to actually to the empathy statue, because there is kind of like an empathy angle to it.
Yes. I was just pulling up some pictures just to see if I could find what these I would I think a pair of glasses might be
Yeah, a pair
a
of
good one.
glasses.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
much like this is the eye of the future. Is that what you're calling it? What was it again?
Yeah, yeah, like seeing through somebody else's eyes, I guess.
Hmm. So I guess we have the same thing, which is
Yeah.
interesting, not expected,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say it, a touch boring, which is fine. We can be boring.
I came up with mine first in my head.
Okay, that's absolutely fair. You're more than welcome. We could have the same thing. You know, sometimes Trey and I will go to a restaurant, and Trey has to order first, or no, he has to order second because whatever. If I order first, he can't order the same thing as me because why, Trey?
Because you just can't order the same thing. It's just weird.
It's unheard of at a
Yeah.
restaurant for two people to order the same thing. That
Right.
is gross kind of faux pas for
Yeah. And to
something.
be clear, when you order first and you order the thing that I was going to order, you did it on purpose, even if
Even if we
you
never
didn't
talked about
know.
it. That's also very much in our personality, right there. So uh, let us know in the comments, like, subscribe, let us know in the comments if you also feel that you can't order the same thing as another person when you go to dinner. I find it to be a very weird and off-putting thing that we do. Okay, anyways, thank you for the check-in. We've got real hotkeys and they're getting hot.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about, and actually, instead of just talking, let's show a little bit about like what hotkeys are doing, because there's some things that are really difficult, whether it be the web browser, the operating system, or keyboards, that makes hotkeys terrible. So Trey, take it away.
Yeah, probably good to point out here while I'm sharing my screen that we are changing the format of these a little bit so that we do more of the status up front. So we'll do our check-in question, then we'll do kind of like, here's the status of things, and then we'll do kind of like the more sort of commentary part of it after, so that anybody who just wants the status can get it a little
I
bit more.
think we tend to find commentary all the way throughout, but that's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah, I think it's great
This,
for us to talk about work first.
yeah. It's the goal.
It's absolutely.
Share screen. Let's see here. Share this. Can you see that?
Of course I can.
Ah, great. Good to hear. Okay, so for those who've been following along, you might notice a couple new things. Namely, we have all of the positions that we were rendering initially. So we've got 7 classic planets. We also have the Ascendant and the North Node, which the North Node was a new addition since last time. And now these have been put back into chart rendering with the sort of quote unquote real chart, which we talked about in the last episode. So that's kind of like thing number one. But that's not really related to hotkeys, but it is kind of the first thing that you will notice when looking at this. A few things you will not notice still is there's no labels. This is not telling you like what degree or what sign that they're in.
Mars and the moon are on top of each other. What's up with that?
Yeah, and this is my chart we're looking at. As per usual, we're starting out with my
As
chart.
always, I always start with
Yes,
Trey's chart.
but there's a few things that we want to show here. So if you remember from last episode when we talked about the cosmic console, we now have, and when Jake was showing the designs for the cosmic console, he was showing that there were hotkeys in the design, but there weren't actually any hotkeys in the product now. And now there are some hotkeys in the product.
And they're well designed within the console. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, don't they look great?
Yeah.
It's thanks to a nice design.
Uh-huh.
So now you can see that there are some hotkeys here, and we've also added some functionality for shifting the time. So all of these hotkeys right now are just around shifting the time of the chart. So these things are, when you open the console, you will see that there are some things that are here, and then there are hotkeys that are associated with them. And if you start typing like you want to go to now, then you would see the specific thing that you're looking for along with the hotkey. And this is part of the sort of training that we talked about last time of, the first few times you do something, you might find it in the console at first, because then you could just type some text to try to find something. But then eventually, hopefully you will get used to the hotkeys, and then you'll start to use the hotkeys as well. So for example, I can select now from the list, and that works like it did before. So this is the current moment, which we're going to come back to in a moment. And then, so starting with my chart again, because N is the hotkey for going to now, I can also just hit N on my keyboard, which is what I just did. And so now we're looking
Boom.
at so awesome. Now, if you look in here, we also have move ahead by an hour, move ahead by a day, and move back by an hour, and move back by a day as sort of arbitrary increments. You can, of course, do this also by clicking on this time selector, and a lot of this stuff is going to change. So, just the usual caveat of what you're looking at is a work in progress. But if I also hit 3 on my keyboard, I'm going to go forward by an hour. And as you can see, it's going forward by an hour. And if I hit 4, I will go forward by a day. And you can
Nice.
see the moon moving here. This is a good way to see that because the houses, yeah, the slight shift of the houses is an interesting thing about how time works and the house system. So we're looking at the Placidus house system by default here. That all works. We can also hit Shift 3 to go backwards in time. So this is going backwards in time. And we can hit Shift 4 to go backwards by days. So I'm hitting N to go now, 3s to go forward, N to go now, Shift 3s to go back. And you can start to
Fly
get the
through this
feel.
chart.
What's that?
You could just fly through this chart.
Yeah, it's starting to really feel like this was stuff that I really wanted to have in Urania for the longest time, and there was just no really good way to do it because of the platform choices and a whole bunch of other factors. And likewise, if I change, sort of over to the whole sign house system, you can see that the first house is here. The ascendant is marked in the first house. But then these houses would align directly with the signs, which we're not actually showing. And so if I go forward here, you can see the ascendant moving through the chart. So that's hotkeys from a demo perspective. Now, do you want to go through all of the demo items and then come back and talk about
Let's talk.
hotkeys?
Well, let's just talk about some of the challenges that have gone with this, because I remember what you were when you were implementing this. You hit Command K and you were going up and down the list, and like the what's called the caret of
Yes.
like that little thing that's blinking on the screen there was jumping back and forth, and you were like, "Oh, that's silly and stupid. I need to go fix that." And then when you fix that, you opened up a whole package of things that the web browser does, or
Yes.
maybe even the operating system does, that starts to make hotkeys for web delivered digital products to be very difficult. Can you talk a little bit about like what that journey has been so far?
Yes, absolutely. So if exactly what you said from last time, when moving up and down items in the console, the cursor here at the end of the text that I just typed was moving back to the beginning of the text and to the end of the text. And this was kind of like the first subtle indication that there was a crack in the facade. And opening up that crack revealed a whole world of pain and suffering. So there's a number of issues, and I'll start with this one in particular because when considering hotkeys, the hotkeys you as particularly when you're an application that's web delivered as Cosmic is, and this is something we haven't really talked a ton about, that Urania is an app that you install on your machine, and Cosmic is a web delivered product, and there's a number of massive benefits to this, but it's now when you're inside of the context of the browser, there's a whole stack of sort of hotkeys that exist, and you can think of the arrow keys as a type of hotkey. They are a key that has particular meaning, and so when we have the console up and you're using the arrow keys to move around, the browser is saying arrow keys mean move around in a text input, for example. Whereas for the console, we want them to only be meaningful within the context of the console when the console is open. And
meaning, so to be clear, because you're using kind of very precise language here, but just to be clear, like when the console is up, we want any keys that you hit to focus in on that. We don't want them to focus on the web browser. We don't want them to focus on the operating system. We want them here.
Yeah, exactly. Turning on some lights, it just got dark. I think cloud went.
A cloud came in, and all of a sudden now it's whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's there's lots of things kind of there's lots of things in the context of where your web app is running that might have expectations about things. So this example, which you brought up of the cursor moving, was kind of like, yeah, that was that first example. But then I immediately noticed another thing, which was in Firefox, when you hit Command K or Control K, Firefox believes that is the indication to launch their search.
From the search Google or DuckDuckGo or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So that actually caused us to prioritize that into this cycle. And we initially sort of costed this hotkey thing of like, how do we make the hotkeys like not do bad things in other contexts as like a not super big ticket. We kind of t-shirt sized it to about a medium. And I spent I spent 3 solid days just doing this one thing.
That's not a
And
medium.
it's not even remotely fully done, which we'll talk about a little bit with the keyboards and keyboard layouts part of this.
Yeah. Do you want me to switch to that right now? Because
Yeah, yeah. Here, I'll
so
stop sharing.
one thing that we would like to do, because we're a web delivered product, is to sorry, I just pulled something up and I don't want anymore. There we go. Is to make sure that this is kind of ready worldwide. So as part of localization, the kind of very basic parts of localizations, making sure that the language matches for the target speaker. So if I come in from Germany, wouldn't it be nice to be in German as opposed to in English? But localization has lots and lots of different layers. One of the
Many layers.
biggest pain points of localization, as we found out, is that the keyboard changes. So what Trey had showed was,
Can I give the
yeah,
background on? Yeah.
yeah,
So
of course.
where how this surfaced is that we wanted to do so Jake, in Jake's design, he said, we wanted to say 3 and 4 as sort of move forward an hour, move forward a day, and we want to use shift 3 and shift 4 to move back an hour and back a day. When you hold down shift and hit 3 or 4 on your keyboard, you will get a character that is different depending upon your keyboard layout. If you're using a US English keyboard like I am, you'll get a pound sign and a dollar sign. If you're using a different keyboard, you will get different symbols. On a Quartz keyboard here in Germany, the top of 4 is a paragraph marker. I don't know why.
Choices. And because of that, here, I'll just actually share my entire screen.
Yeah.
Because I think they'll be easiest. So because of that, we have these hotkeys, and you'll see now that it says not just hotkeys, but now it says US English hotkeys. So for example, what's called Meta K or Command K or Control K will open or close the Cosmic Console. And then, yes, Trace talked about the 1 through 6, whatever. N goes to now, but like we have this one, which is shows or hides the UI. So that would be Command / right now. And then this one, which is Control Shift ? Will open or close a kind of keyboard shortcut panel. So in case you don't know what all the shortcuts are, we have a way of doing this. This is not implemented yet. These are just kind of proposed.
Yeah.
The problem is, and our friends, thank God, at Figma, Dorothy Chen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We should actually just like mail whoever Dorothy Chen is and basically say like, thank you so much for this article because
this is
saved
a
our
game
bacon.
changer.
Yeah.
Because what you're seeing here in this picture right here is this key right here, because Germans, for some reason, have on their keyboard the section key, like kind of top of mind. It's super weird. So if you see a German keyboard, you're like, what is this symbol here? And it's when you write like legal documents, this is the symbol for section. And the big joke here is because Germans only can write legal documents because they're very legalistic. This is why this is so prevalent here. But the US key, just like US has a back, this is a /
Yeah.
this is a backslash, but it's the same problem. The US has this very easily on their keyboard.
Right,
it doesn't exist. Yeah, it doesn't exist on a German keyboard. You have to hit some crazy thing to actually get that. So if we have this show or hides UI that is like this, you can't actually do that on a German keyboard, which is called a Quartz keyboard. Dorothy goes into great detail around many problems that you do here. The S set character, the capital S set, which is a thing or not a thing. And how do you design new shortcuts based upon whether you're in France, where you've got a keyboard that's called the AZERTY keyboard, or German, which is the Quartz keyboard. And it's kind of insane. So it's a ticket now. We have to thank Dorothy for her immense help in kind of highlighting this problem, because this essentially is a spec for everything that we have to do if we want to make sure that our product is properly localized, meaning that you are in Germany. It's not only in German language, but also you can use the keyboard shortcuts in a natural way on your German keyboard. That's
Yeah.
probably the harder part of localization than anything.
Yeah. Also, probably important to point out too that for Urania and of Urania users today, the majority of downloads and unique visitors come from the United States, and then France is a close second to
Yeah.
the United States, and then Germany is third. And so these are a lot of people that are utilizing Urania are coming from these things. Now Urania doesn't have any hotkeys, and Urania has very little text in it, which is, I think, part of the reason why it's been a little bit easier for people to use who aren't native English speakers, is because there's really not a lot of, I really relied on semiotics a lot more than actual language.
Yeah. Yeah. So little did we know that, like, certainly we knew the language part when, Trey was making Urania, but we didn't realize the keyboard shortcut thing was going to be a big pain in the patooter. But, that's what makes software development and software design very fun. So we're looking forward to
Traps.
designing, yeah, the traps. We're not only looking forward to designing for QWERTY keyboards, but Kvetz keyboards and Azerty keyboards, and maybe a bunch of other languages, depending on how Cosmic takes off, which
Yeah,
would be
exactly. It's fun.
pretty amazing.
I think it's fun when you do something, you like create something in software, and then you're like, oh, this is like a weird thing. There's like a little weird thing that's happening here. Why is this happening? And then you ask that question and you dive in and you're like, oh no, no. There's this
Yeah.
it's an endless hole of like, oh, hotkeys are like, oh, we thought it was going to be so easy. So
What seems like a very simple question of like, oh, I wonder how this works, and all of a sudden you pick up the rock and the many-legged disgusting centipede starts going on. You're like, oh no, and there's centipedes everywhere, and you're like, oh my god, there's too many centipedes. I don't know what to do about this.
exactly.
Um,
So
so this whole cycle was called Chart Rehab, and I will say that at the beginning of the cycle we had different plans for where we ended up, and maybe that has to do something with the eclipse. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things that I had planned in from a design perspective was to do a bunch of work to talk about house systems and like making sure that the house systems, we understood the kind of scope and spec of the house systems. And then we're like, well, the name is Chart Rehab. Why aren't we just designing the chart? Okay, so let's, it's something that I've been kind of avoiding, as it turns out. But let's
I just
let's
realized
let's go for it.
there was another demo thing that we can come back to too.
Oh no, go ahead. Go do your demo thing.
Oh yeah, I just remembered that there was one more. Can you bring up
The old agenda.
the agenda?
The agenda, sure.
I prefer to use the
The
soft.
chart got some stuff back.
Yeah, hotkeys. The chart got some stuff back. Oh yes. Okay. So yeah. Sorry. Okay. I just remembered. I'm going to share my screen again really quick before
You
you go.
can tell how
Design.
deeply we plan these videos.
Yeah, yeah.
Our many dozens of viewers really appreciate the care that we put into our presentation.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, when you're doing something every week, it's like there's only really so much time you could put into it. And this week was really insane with the like features and development that happened because of so much of the cycle being eaten up by this hotkey shenanigans. But there was one more thing that I wanted to show. So we're looking at my chart again. Okay, I'm going to go to now, and I'll just leave it in Placidus. So we have another thing, which is chart rotation. So in the console, I can now say rotate the chart so that the first house cusp is on the left, and voila. Yeah. So again, we're using Placidus here. And here, let me switch over to Berlin as well. So we're looking at actually here right now. And that's a big first house in the Placidus house system. And so if I go forward in time, you can see that the ascendant at the beginning of the first house is sticking over there. And then if I change the house system, let's make it a whole sign. Then you can see that the ascendant is there in the first house. And as we move forward, once the ascendant moves into the next house, then it will switch over and rotate always. And so this is much more the sort of style of chart that most people would be used to seeing is a rotated chart with the first house cusp over here on the left. And so we now have that, and it works with everything else.
Hey.
Yeah. Okay, that's that demo.
So because the cycle is called chart rehab, it's time to start designing charts. And Trey was so kind as to putting together a lot of charts that he found in various places. So as you can see here, here's Chris Brennan talking. There's Austin Kopic. This must have been one of their kind of monthly roundups of what had happened in the news and looking at the charts of those moments. We've got Ryan Butler, where he talks about these charts. Oh, Urania. Wonder who did this one. This is Trey Henry. Hey, surprise, surprise. We're always looking at Trey's chart. That's the new thing. Astrobot, things like that. And you know, the general thing to get out of this is that charts have many different views with many different pieces of data with many different blah blah blahs. And just because it's a technical thing does not mean that it doesn't have to be joyful. It doesn't have to be aesthetic as well. And what I would say is, my critique on a lot of these things is that they aren't very aesthetic. The aesthetic choices that we make here are not very good, but the functional choices are things that we need to honor. Okay, well, I didn't do much yet when it comes to charts, but what I can show is the start of is the start of explorations. And go to Figma for a second. And if you look here, this is the start of a chart where we are putting the zodiacal symbols down onto that and rotating them. And so in this chart, we've got Aries over here, that goes to Taurus into Gemini, and even doing something where it's like, maybe it pokes out of the chart a little bit. And because Aries is a fire sign, and we've got Taurus as a earth sign, or as a earth elemental, and then we've got the air elementals, like, is there a way to kind of like make them a little bit more fun and kind of look a little bit nice while still keeping the technical precision aspects of that? This will be in light and dark mode. We're going to design lots of different things. I'm fully expecting in a future video to go through a lot of different iterations of where we went with the chart and where we're planning on going. But just to show a little bit of like, hey, you know what? We have to start designing the chart. It's chart rehab. We can rehabilitate from our past of unaesthetic, kind of icky looking, but very technically precise charts.
Yeah, but I think there's something so one of the things I really like about this design is the dimensionality that's added by by the glow of and the sort of like outlines that really pop up almost on like another layer up, the zodiacal symbols. And this is really cool because there's now a little bit of dimensionality there, and some of the things that we've talked about wanting to do, which we're not ready to really share yet, it will actually provide a lot of information, like ambient information, without, as you were saying, without breaking the sort of like model of the wheel chart, but giving you a lot more. Like, it's not just about like the accuracy or the like technical versus joyous and beautiful. It's like it can be joyous and beautiful and actually provide you with more information. Right. Than a purely technical chart, right? But there's different contexts in which you might want to see these things too. Like you might want to have a nice chart that maybe shows a meaningful event or something like that, and it's something that you actually want to like print out and save, or you want to share with somebody or something like that. And that might be a slightly different way of showing the chart than when you're working directly with a client, for example, and like you've got the client's chart up and you need to have a certain level of interactivity and like, show me these things, don't show me these things, like now we're moving to this, now we're moving to this. So it's really like thinking about all of these different sort of ways that we can represent charts and
like there's no reason.
I love these.
Yeah, go ahead. Me too. There's no reason that just because it's a poster, oh my gosh, all of a sudden it went from raining to super sunny, and now I'm doing that thing where like I have to squint. Hold on a second. Oh my gosh. The weather.
Yeah.
The weather.
The weather.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about it.
But but I feel like sometimes there's a separation between like the practice of astrology and the aesthetics of astrology. And I don't know exactly why those two things are super separate, honestly, because there's something really joyous and beautiful and wonderful at looking at this chart. So why can't this also be, not this specifically, but why can't the feeling of this also be within our digital
Exactly.
tools?
Yeah.
And if you want to pick this up, this is at the store at theastrologypodcast.com. Chris Brennan, we're not getting any money for that. Chris Brennan would be incredibly
Well,
happy
to
that
be
you bought one
fair,
of
all
these.
12 of our viewers are not going to like make a significant impact on.
By the way, us saying that we have 12 viewers is probably a bit of an overstatement because I know two of those viewers are sitting right here, number one. Number two, I think the last video we made had 18 views, not viewers. So let's
Whatever.
say not the dozen viewers, but the ones of you, the many ones of you that are watching this are probably not going to break. You're not going to take down the internet by buying these posters. I don't think.
Yeah. But you should go buy one because they're really cool.
You should buy one. It's only 1995. Go do it. Go
And I
support
think
Chris.
you also get like I think there's like some package deals too where you can maybe get like you get like a couple different things and like maybe you also get like access to uh, some of the like upcoming electional forecasts and things like that too. So anyway, we're not here to
Yeah,
advertise
probably.
this as well.
Look at how fun this is. You know, like it's
Yeah,
fun. That Capricorn symbol is
wild.
something else. I have never seen a Capricorn symbol like that.
Yeah, that thing is wild.
That is wild. That is a wild symbol. Also,
I
look
like
how sharp.
I love that Capricorn is like is the one that there's like 10 different designs for. Like in Urania, I went with this like really stylized kind of Z sort of thing.
Yeah,
Um, and you know, but then there's like kind of the more you I think you see it the most often, which is like the V with the S kind of
yeah,
attached to it. And
yeah,
yeah, I think there's just something about the sort of like the the weird nature of like the goat horned fish serpent that just
yeah.
even makes the symbol hard to like really button down. And I love that about it. Like I don't want it to be like one canonical symbol. I love that there's at least one thing on the chart that's just like, I don't know, draw it however the hell you
Everyone. I will say is another thing. I've never seen this poster before. Now that I'm looking at it, the sharpness that is coming through on the arrow on Sagittarius, and like look at
want. Oh yeah.
Pisces. Look how sharp Pisces look. It like I looked at Pisces and I'm like, don't touch it. It's going to hurt you. But
Yeah,
like
yeah. It looks like a
your
weapon.
sun sign, it looks like a weapon. Your sun sign is Pisces. I can touch you. I know you're not a weapon. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I would expect that to feel more like Scorpio and Sun, honestly, because I have dealt with a lot of people who have their sun sign in Scorpio, and God bless them, they're wonderful people, but boy, they can be sharp,
Yeah,
super
yeah, yeah.
sharp people.
Yeah. That Aries too is like works pretty well too with like just the really sharp horns.
Yeah, but I would assume that Taurus would also be sharp then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now,
It's
anyway,
okay.
we're not here to
Choices,
critique this.
choices.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, but the overall point is basically that like, yeah, it you can have your cake and eat it too. Your cake can be beautiful and it can be tasty and it can be wonderful,
Low
and it can
fat.
also be conveying a lot.
Yeah, low fat, no calories, tasty. We could be we're the cake of your dreams. You can put it in the bank. Uh Enough of this stuff that we've done and stuff that we're doing. Let's talk about the running of the what we call the running of the cosmic choo-choo and the
Yeah,
astrological event that's happening right now. So do you want
yeah,
to take a view of Urania right now to talk a little bit about what's going
yeah,
on?
yeah, yeah. Actually, let's start with a
Let's
piece
start
of
with cosmic.
we are working on. All right, so I'm gonna hit the N key to go to now. Oop, as soon as I what's going on here? There we go. Now, and we're gonna say that we want to change city to Berlin.
Look at you just flying through those keyboard shortcuts. I love it. The two-step tango.
So good. So yeah, so here we are. This is the chart, and of course we're not seeing actually any. This is also looking at the Placidus signs. So let's move over. Or sorry, Placidus houses. Move over to whole sign houses. So oh, and actually let's go ahead and rotate the chart. Hey, look at that. You'll notice that the sun and the moon are almost on top of each other.
That means something.
So anybody who knows much about astrology probably knows that a conjunction of the sun and the moon is the new moon, and a opposition of sun and moon is a full moon. Uh, and anytime you have a new or full moon that occurs within, I can't remember how many degrees it is, but it's like a few degrees from either the north or south node, which we won't get into the technical details about what those are. But basically, if you're within a few degrees of the north or south node, it's an eclipse somewhere. You might not be able to see it where you are on the planet, but there is an eclipse. And so you can see here, so we have the sun and moon conjunct over here. And then we have the north node is here. So you can imagine that the south node is always exactly opposite the north node. So the south node is like right about here. It is an eclipse. And
Hey.
eclipses are well known for a number of interesting phenomena within astrological circles. And there are generally, I think it's the North and South Node are generally in traditional astrology are generally considered malefic. They're not necessarily like always bad things, but they are things that can cause complexity or difficulty for humans. And some of the interesting things that I think Jake and I have observed over this
Yeah.
particular eclipse season is strange sleeping patterns.
Yeah.
So like I had an event which I don't normally go to. There's an event from a wonderful occultist and computational linguistics expert talking about machine learning and magic. It was amazing. At an event here in Berlin, but it was like really late at night, and then I came home. This was just a couple nights ago, and like couldn't get to sleep, and then finally did like really early in the morning, and then ended up like waking up really early in the morning as well, and feeling kind of super energized. And then like taking like a 4 hour nap in the middle of the afternoon. It was just like the sleep schedule has been whacked, and also crazy dreams.
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything about
I mean, so I went to bed at a normal time while Trey was doing his thing. Ended up waking up around 1:15 in the morning after a nightmare. And the nightmare wasn't particularly scary or impactful to me. Like sometimes they're like very personal things. This was just like a normal kind of run-of-the-mill zombie apocalypse or something like that nightmare. And usually after having something like this, like my heart is racing a little bit, something happened, I wake up and I'm like, okay, just like maybe get some water, go to the bathroom, whatever, just like lay down, go back to sleep. But something about this was just like really keeping me up, and just I could not go back to sleep until probably I think it was like 6 a.m. And then I woke up at 8. And then I went to work. And instead of doing the thing that everyone else does, which is they say, as an excuse or as a way to kind of garner sympathy, to be like, oh God, I'm so tired. I didn't sleep well last night. Instead, I was just like, let's just be a professional and power through the day. No one noticed that I was completely cracked out. Um, but yeah, and then the next night, I think I ended up falling asleep at like 8 p.m. This was, I think, last night. I fell asleep on a Friday night, fell asleep at like 8 p.m., woke up at, I think, 9 a.m. So I don't know. The sleep schedules are a little bit all over the place. Yeah, but as Trey mentions here, the cosmic choo-choo don't stop for no eclipse. And I think the reason why is because these videos are not the core of what we are providing. The core of what we're providing is a digital product that people are going to use and love and cherish. And those things we will elect for and make sure that that is proper. But like these videos, they're just kind of like
we do them every week?
side, yeah, they're side material, right? And so I completely understand that Chris Brennan talks about like the date and time, and he sometimes even does an electional, he does an election for his content, because that is the craft of what he does and what he provides. For us, because these are just like kind of sawdust or side things, we're like, okay, it's absolutely fine. The choo-choo keep running, please.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I was just going to show that. Can you see uranium, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is now in Berlin. So this, here we can actually see degrees, and the sun and moon are not exactly conjunct yet, but they're very, very close. And they're at 20-ish degrees, and the node is at 25-ish degrees, definitely within range. And so we're here at 1648 approximately. And if I just zoom forward just a smidge here, right around 1900-ish, where it's just a few hours from now, it's going to be
Yeah.
like, the partile conjunction, or the exact conjunction, that for the eclipse.
And
And
this
then
isn't,
after that, it'll start separating, and we'll all start getting a little bit of a breath of fresh air for a short time.
I love the software. Whoever designed this, whoever made this, did a great job. And again, this is not we are not an interpretation podcast. We're not an interpretation company, but I do wonder what it means for this to happen within like the 16th lunar mansion and all of these things. I'll go find that somewhere. I'm sure there's plenty of astrologists that are going to tell me what these
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't.
eclipses
Yeah,
mean.
like the location of like the moon in a mansion during a new or full moon, um, and then also during an eclipse. I think are yeah, it's interesting thing. Sure, certainly from an electional perspective, you would generally sort of try to avoid eclipses for sure, and you would also generally probably try to avoid new moons, or the moon in some other way being afflicted, like the ruler of the house that the moon's in being afflicted, or some you know aspect that's negative, impacting things or whatever. But anyway,
Not this podcast. This podcast don't avoid nothing.
yeah. Well, and yeah, exactly. Like this is our weekly update. It's going to happen come hell or high water, unless we just can't do it for some reason. But some reason is definitely not an eclipse.
And with that, we wish you all a happy and healthy Saturday or whatever day you're watching this video, or whatever day I upload it. Who knows? Be well, take care, wash your hands, put your feet in earth, and
Call
be
your
well.
mom.
Call your mom. Bye.
Bye.